I've got a few minutes after 6 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and open the budget meeting. And this is going to be a public event, so hopefully we'll have some folks either online, or I know we've got some that have signed up. At this point in time, I am going to recognize the city manager, Jim Colson, and he's going to kick us off with presentation.
Great, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So the objective in this meeting and in the next two, which both are going to be scheduled tomorrow, is to provide an opportunity for the public to engage city council and staff to a degree to outline, get clarification on issues that they may have with the budget, and then also to make their wishes known. So what we're going to do today is we will provide a brief budget presentation. We will seek public comment, and then there will be a committee discussion amongst the budget committee. And at this point, I would like to turn this presentation over to, am I coming back to you, Deputy Mayor, or am I sending it over to Nikki?
I think just send it over to Nikki.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
sending it over to Nikki Lee, who joined the city about 6 months ago and has done a very good job in preparing this budget.
Thank you. I'm Nikki, I'm the budget manager, and my contact information is online, and anybody is welcome to contact me anytime with questions or concerns. And just before I get started with the presentation, I wanted to walk through a little bit on our website to make sure everybody knows that information is available online. We've tried to make it very easy. This is our home page, topeka.org, and there's a button here that says, "Where's the money?" So hopefully people can find that pretty easily. And then from there, we've put a few links that we found have been the most popular. During budget, this can take you right to the city budget page, and I'll show you that just briefly in a second. And then also one that we're really trying to enhance is the financial report. If you click here, it takes you to a monthly report and a quarterly report tab. And these are some very good, I would say, new and improved documents that we've tried. We have the first quarter up here for the first quarter of this year. So definitely check that out. It gets into a lot of detail about all of the funds, but I think it's written in a very user-friendly manner that if you just want to know how's the city of Topeka doing in all of our different areas, this is a very quick and easy way to do it. Now the budget usually focuses on the next coming year. So the quarterly report, the monthly reports talk mostly about 2014, the current year. And once we get over budget, we're talking about the next coming year, so 2015. So on this page, I'm going to be updating this throughout the budget process, which really is kicked off tonight. You'll see anytime we have a presentation or any kind of major document, I'll post it on our website so everybody can see that. And I try to do that even the night of, so it's on there as soon as anybody needs it. We have a calendar that shows you all of our major events that'll be coming up. And then also some information on the bottom from our prior budgets. So, you know, sometimes we're talking a lot about 2015, but we stop to remember that, oh, we still have more than half of 2014 left. So you might have a question about our current year's budget. So we leave all that information up here, as well as all of the previous years. So if you want to know anything back to the 2005 budget, that's all available on our website here. So just wanted to emphasize that to everybody. And definitely, if you're ever looking for something and can't find it, let us know. We want this to be a tool for the council, for members of the public. So we're very flexible with our website and willing to try different things. So speaking of trying new things, tonight we have a couple of things that we're trying, new different types of technology. One is our presentation here, which we'll also have available online. And afterwards, we're going to try a quick new poll where we're going to get from you what your budget priorities should be, and that's going to provide the council with some guidance as we're working on the budget for what members of the public think. We'll walk through it in a minute here, but that is going to be available online for the next 2 weeks, so people who can't make the meeting or people that want to even give their input online will be able to really leading up to when we really kick off the budget process. So just to start here at a very basic level, what is a budget? A budget really is our plan for how we're going to be spending money. In the state of Kansas, we have to adopt a new budget every year, and we have to do it by August 25th. So sometimes people are confused about why are we doing the budget so early. Sometimes we start talking about it in February, and members of the public might be a little confused about that. Well, that's all leading up to having to adopt a budget by August for that coming year. So there are quite a few state regulations that really kind of outline the budget process in Kansas for why we do and when we do what we do. So really the budget is a plan of pretty much how you're going to spend what you make and also projecting how much you're going to make in all of your revenues. And in doing that, the budget really lines out the priorities of the city council. So the budget is what tells everybody really where your priorities are, because it's deciding where you're going to be spending the money. So it's a very important policy tool as we go into the year as well. Some key definitions for everybody. Revenues, of course, that's our source of income. Here in Topeka, our major sources of revenue are property tax and sales tax. And of the cities in Kansas, those are very common to be two of the biggest revenue sources. Expenditures are the things that we spend that money on. And then a fund, these are different accounts, so we like to think of them as different checking accounts. And they're pots of money that are set up for different purposes. Some of them have some pretty specific business functions and things we have to spend the money on. Some of them are a little more general. Specifically, the general fund is what we use to purchase most things that we have to purchase. And I'll get into a little more detail here. Speaking of the general fund, it's one of our most important funds we talk about, and this is a breakout just to give you an idea of where we spend our general fund. As you can see, 74% of our money is spent on public safety, so that's a very important part of the budget conversation. And as you can see how it splits out from there, infrastructure, that includes public works. Recreation and leisure, that includes what we pay to the county for the parks and recreation that they provide. Courts and legal. Internal services is things like HR, financial services, community development, and then city governance includes like the cost of city council, the mayor. And this is just again to hit home, the reason we talk about the general fund so heavily is that it's almost half of our total budget. So just to talk a little bit about how we're doing in the city of Topeka, you know, we talked about some general budget terms, but you might want to know how are we doing financially. And the good news is that we end the 2013 year in a very good place. I would say the city council, city staff, everybody did a very good job of being very diligent with the 2013 budget. Not only managing expenditures, but also revenues came in better than expected. So the economy isn't quite back to where it was, but it certainly came in better than where it's been for the past couple of years. So the combination of revenues coming in better and then also managing our expenditures really well ended in a 2013 year-end balance that allowed us to add to our fund balance. So this is really great news for us and a lot of people. We've been struggling to do that really since the recession. So really 2013 we see as a time to start really kicking stuff back around. So getting a little more into the funds here, just these are some pretty important topics as we go into the budget process. We have a lot of special revenue funds, and you'll see in our proposed budget book, which will be available in a week to you, we line out all of these different funds. We have a separate page for in our proposed budget. So for those of you that are interested in any of these particulars, all this information is available. The special revenue funds tend to be some pretty specific. Like we have a downtown business improvement district, which means the downtown businesses are charged a certain fee that goes into a pot of money that they can then use for different things around the downtown area. So it's usually for pretty specific purposes there. Also the citywide half-cent sales tax would be the amount of money that we pay for all of our street maintenance and all of those associated costs. The debt service fund, this is the money that we pay for our debt. So any large amount of money that we borrow for any of our capital projects, we have to pay that back, of course. The debt service fund is a pretty important part of our conversation. It's also mill levy supported, so a portion of your property tax goes to pay for our debt in the debt service fund. Enterprise funds, these are really any of our funds that operate like a business. So anything where the residents pay for a specific purpose. A perfect example would be water, would be parking, would be wastewater, meaning if you don't use that service in Topeka, you're not charged for it. So it's really the users that are supporting these funds, and then the funds are used to put back into those different services. Internal service funds, these are funds that we create within the city of Topeka to help us do our own business. So we have internal service funds for fleet, so this is how we replace and repair our own vehicles. Information technology, facilities would be how we maintain our own internal facilities. And then finally, capital project funds. This would be any of our major equipment and construction projects for the city would be in the capital project fund. Okay, so a little bit more about maybe some recent history. This is just an overview of the Great Recession, and as I mentioned, the Great Recession impacted not only Topeka, but really every city in Kansas and every city in the country. Overall, there was $11.2 trillion in market losses, so this was pretty significant. As you can see, consumer confidence, which is a big deal for us. If consumers are less confident, they're spending less money, which means less sales tax for us. And it dropped from 95.2 to 25.3, so that's a really significant drop. In Topeka, our unemployment peaked at 7.9% in 2010, As you can see in 2014, things are starting to improve a little bit, but we're still not really back to where we were pre-recession. So our unemployment is improving here in Topeka. Our median household income, as you can see, the 2012 number is better than the 2011, but still not as good as 2008. So that's really, as we're framing the budget, we like to still be pretty conservative, knowing that we're better than we have been, but we're still not back to maybe where we were before that. And really just again want to emphasize really how really significant the recession was to our budget, and that recovery, while it is recovering, is still pretty sluggish. So in Topeka, we talked a little bit about our major revenue sources, and really these are, for the most part, are all pretty economically sensitive. So property tax, that's based on the value of your home. Of course, if your home value is going down, you're going to be charged less property tax, which is less revenue to the city. Sales tax is really dependent on how confident people are, what people are spending. If you're spending less, we're making less. Franchise fees, this would be a tax that we tax to the utilities, and it's really based on what they make. So if you are being diligent in watching your electricity, watching your gas, and you're spending less and conserving more, that means that less is getting passed on to the utilities and less is getting passed on to us. So really the major point here is that, you know, as everyone is suffering in the public, that all really gets passed on to the city. So where are we going as we build the 2015 budget? As we just explained to you, we are slowly building back into the fund balance. This is really important to us for a couple of reasons. Really, the fund balance serves as your savings account. So when times are hard, if your revenues aren't coming in like they need to, and you need something really like your own personal savings account, this is really what you can fall back on if you need to. But also the fund balance is really important to our bond rating. So when we go out to borrow funds for certain projects, what we're charged is really based on our rating, which is a lot of it dependent on how healthy our fund balance is. So pretty much if we have a healthier fund balance and a healthier rating, then it saves the city money. Also, we're having constant expenditure management. So what we mean by this is that we're always looking for efficiencies, always looking to save money mid-year. So just because it wasn't adopted in the budget as being an efficiency or some kind of budget cut doesn't mean we're not going to do it. We're constantly, throughout the year, every year, going to be looking for different opportunities to save everybody money. We also are implementing a formal revenue projection process. So really this is, I would say, doing a much better, more finite job of looking at our sales tax trends, our property tax, you know, developing better partnerships with the county, with the state, to look at all of these, looking at statistics. So something that really is going to improve the whole budget process. And also overall in Topeka, our overall debt burden is decreasing and is still going in that direction. So as we build the 2015 budget, we are having a little bit of growth in revenues, but still it is pretty conservative. And you'll be seeing a lot more details as we roll out the proposed budget. You'll see how this translates into dollars. We do have some rising expenditures, and most of that is to really what we consider fixed costs that we can't control. So for example, our employee costs, a lot of that is tied to contracts that we have signed with some of the different unions and some of the different employees. Sometimes we'll sign those for 2 years, so we already know in 2015 what our obligated costs are going to be for some of those areas. Of course, a lot of ongoing commodity costs, fuel, asphalt, electricity, and gas are all going up. Things like our insurance premiums. So these are all things that as we went into the 2015 budget, we already know we're going to be increasing our budget. So because of this, in order to absorb some of this increase, we are going to be having some targeted expenditure reductions in departments. So, you know, in order to make up for these costs that were rising, we did have to find some areas of efficiency, which we'll be presenting to everybody as part of the proposed budget. And really the reason that we're doing this is that we're addressing a structural imbalance in our budget. So from here going forward, not only do we want to present a balanced budget, but where we can, we want to be building to the fund balance. And really this is going to help us not only in 2015, but for the next 5 years. So going into 15, one of the most important things that we kept in mind as we started to build the budget are the council budget priorities, which have been adopted recently. These are in alphabetical order, so they do not reflect any kind of priority. And these priorities are developing neighborhoods, establishing fiscal sustainability, investing in infrastructure and public safety. And we feel that these are very consistent with what we've heard from the public over and over again as being important to everybody. In addition to that, we are developing an organizational strategic plan, and these are things that, as we're building the budget internally, that we as staff want to keep in mind and really want to speak to. Things like a constant commitment to customer service, fiscal health, organizational excellence, safe and secure communities, so really that goes with public safety, taking care of our physical assets or infrastructure, and really continuing to focus on our thrivable and livable neighborhoods. This is the same calendar that's on our website, so just wanted to put this in front of everybody today to let them know what's going to be coming up. We are having 2 more public meetings. The same topics and the same information are going to be at those next 2 meetings. So members of the public will be able to come tomorrow at 11 or tomorrow at 6 p.m. to see the same presentation, have a chance for input. And also there will be some opportunities online to be able to participate in a poll we're going to talk about in a minute. And of course, always, people are welcome to call or email any kind of input to the budget. And then really starting on June 14th is when all of our budget committee meetings, so those are really the working meetings where the council gets together and works through the budget. Those are going to be kicking off really through the rest of June. Okay, so.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about the time frame for like
Okay.
the 7-1, just kind of finish out actually what's
sure.
involved in the schedule. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a good point. So, I talked a little bit before about there are certain drivers, I would say, in the state and the county that drive our budget calendar. So we would love to be able to finish our budget, finish everything by mid-July. That's really our goal this year, is to make all of our decisions by that point. However, we don't get our revenue estimate from the county and from the state until July 1st. That's when they're required to give us that by that date. So if those revenues come in higher or lower than what we've expected, we actually have to, possibly put that into our budget, implement any changes. So because of this and because of the timeline that follows, once we get that, we finalize the budget. We set the mill levy and we publish that in the paper, and that's got to be in the paper for a certain number of days for the public. We have to have a public hearing following that, which is already going to be set for August 12th. So really, because of the July 1st date and all of the dates that follow, that's really what backs you into that August 25th date. So even though we're going to be really hoping to focus on the budget mostly in June and wrapping up any of our decisions, I would say for the public, there's really opportunities really all the way through August to certainly give any input. Anything else you wanted to speak to on that?
No.
Okay. Okay, so something that we've got here that we would like everybody in the audience to try is, of course, we presented the 2015 council budget priorities, but we would like to know a little more information about what the citizen priorities are. So what we did is we put together a list of different, more specific items in the city's budget that speak to the council budget priorities. So for example, bikeways, that would be something that relates back to infrastructure. Codes, that could be either neighborhoods, it could be public safety, community policing. So really this gives us a little more specific direction that we think maybe members of the public would like us to keep in mind and inform the council about as we go into the budget process. So the way that we have this set up is that you can vote for up to 3, and there are 8 items, so you'll have to, you can either choose to do 3 different ones, or if you want to place a heavy emphasis on something, you can vote twice for 1 item. But you can really only do 3 from any given smartphone, tablet, or computer. So we have 3 different ways that you can vote. One would be that you can text, and you would text it to 22333, and you have to use the keywords here on this screen. You can tweet at poll, and then you follow it with these keywords, and on all of these options you have to do it 3 separate times. So 3 separate texts would be for 3 different votes. You'd have to tweet it 3 separate times. Or if you go to pollev.com/City of Topeka, then on that side that's actually buttons, so that one is actually, I think, one of the easiest ones if you're able to navigate to there on your phone, or actually we've got a couple of iPads floating around if anybody wants to use one of those. Then you simply can hit a button 3 different times. So we have live results here on the screen, so if anyone's doing this from home, this is available online. It's on our Twitter account already. Anybody can already be participating. And as you all vote, we're going to be tabulating the votes, and then throughout the next few days, the next few weeks, at the end of it, we'll have some results of our informal poll here. Any questions about this process or anything that I presented?
Yes. Mr. Mayor.
If someone wants to vote for something other than these 8, is that possible? I mean, other than...
So technically there is no other. We haven't set up any kind of other, but
Okay.
I would say in that case, I would say to probably just to email myself or their city council members that, you know, I didn't see my choice on here, but X is important.
Yeah,
And we
because
could
I think
certainly
there
find a way
may
to
be some
capture
people
that.
who feel strongly about
Yeah.
one and something that isn't on here, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we
thank
could
you.
certainly capture that in the results. Good point.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have the list yet of anybody that's signed up, so is there anybody that has signed up to speak? No? Okay.
So at this point, the plan was to offer members of the audience the opportunity to present information, and it appears that that's not going to happen at this point. The next, and I'll certainly defer to you on how you want to proceed, the next step in the process was to provide an opportunity for council members to discuss amongst themselves, ask maybe some clarifying questions, but to really just address some of the ideas that were brought forth tonight. So I will turn this back over to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I guess the only thing I would make sure that we need to make sure we get the word out, and I can't stress enough what the dates are for the budget. The next public engagement would be tomorrow at 11 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. So please get the word out for that. Then as far as the actual budget meetings, those begin June 14th at 9 a.m. down at the Law Enforcement Center. I don't think it says that on this list, but that first budget meeting will be on a Saturday morning at the Law Enforcement Center conference room. Then we will have one on June 14th is the first one at 9 a.m., June 16th at 6 p.m., again at the LEC, and then June 24th at 6 p.m., and I think that's at the LEC as well. So those are the upcoming dates for actual committee meetings, and that should be in your packets for council members. But I would open it up in case anyone has any comment or questions or suggestions. Mr. Mayor.
Well, also, two council members indicated they could not attend tonight, and I wanted to make that Michelle de Lisa is out of town, and Richard Harmon had a business commitment. So they wanted to make that known, that they weren't just cutting out
Yes.
a meeting.
All
Thank
right,
you.
appreciate that, thank you. Is there any other comments or questions? Well, seeing none, I think we'll adjourn. See you all tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Pardon me?
Yeah.